You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host Nesbit, and today we dig into Night Demon's second single of 2020. This is Kill the Pain. So after working on this song and developing it from a riff over the course of a few years, Night Demon finally hits on a final arrangement for this song, which at the time had the working title Grim Reaperbahn. And they head to the studio in Copenhagen to record with legendary producer Flemming Rasmussen.
At this point, we had already had the idea of working with, these different people for this record or for, whatever it became, singles. I don't know if we really had the idea yet of making these songs singles. But, come on. If anybody knows anything about heavy metal, you've heard the name Flemming Rasmussen before because he was the guy behind the board on the first 4 Metallica records. Some people might say the only ones that you need to worry about. I'd say I'd agree with that, +1. Man, it was just an idea. And we just contacted his people and we're like, it worked out because the first show of the Sacred Reich tour was in Denmark, in Copenhagen. So it was just perfect. So we went out there like a week ahead of time and we went in and met him and it was fucking really surreal.
When I was a kid and I was listening to the Metallica tapes and really learning about the band Metallica, I'd be sitting there listening to the cassettes and looking at the liner notes and, I had Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, and this classic band, this band that was untouchable. They were just on fire. And Flemming had a lot to do with that. So knowing that we were going to be working with Flemming was really, really cool. I was really looking forward to the opportunity, but I don't think that I was nervous at all or that I wouldn't be able to go in there and perform or cut the track. Just because, all the time that we spent writing this song and, finally coming up with something that was really, really close. I knew that going in there, it would just be right on the money.
The studio is a newer version of Sweet Silence. Obviously, the one that Metallica recorded at, stuff was long gone. But it's cool. It's like very kind of like it had a really cool kind of like indie vibe, like construction vibe, like a lot of the panels on the walls are unfinished, just a kind of a rough, but like also, thought out and well built look to it.
As far as the studio and the atmosphere in Sweet Silence, it's really like just cut and dry. In the live room, he has a kitchen in there and like a little dining room table, and you kind of just set the drums up in the room, and the walls are unfinished and just have like a particle board kind of slash just construction look to it, like it's unfinished. He's got the Metallica records on the wall in the live room, and he's got in the control room, he's got some more Metallica stuff. He's got like a little loft in the control room, and like a little spot that you can sit down. It's all you need in a place. It's not like this real fancy place that's just trying to impress you. It's like, hey, you come in here and this is what we're going to do, and this is getting down to business.
We didn't really do too much on the fly when we were in the studio. We wanted to make sure that we were well rehearsed and very prepared so that we were able to execute in the short amount of time that we had. I mean, when you're in the studio, most of the time, you're working on getting sounds, and there's always problems. There were some issues with some of the drum stuff that Dusty had to kind of customize, and it's not a pretty situation a lot when you're in the studio. It doesn't look good. It's messy. It's like there's a lot of tricks that you need to do because it's not about how things look and how things are set up in that way. It's how they're set up in a way that translates to what you actually hear, because you're just listening to audio at the end of the day. You want to get the sounds. You want to do everything you can to get the best sounds. So, I mean, with that said, we didn't want to be performing the songs and, have to worry about, hey, what are we doing on this part? What's the guitar solo? Let's work out the guitar solo. We just didn't have the luxury or the time to do that. We wanted to make sure we had as much time as we could to get the right sounds, or, if something were to go wrong, which it always does in the studio, just things take a lot longer than you anticipate. And then you get burnt out by the end of the day, your ears get tired, and sometimes you're forced to put something down on tape that at the end of the day, you're just kind of rushing through. And luckily that wasn't the case here. One good thing that kind of saved our asses was the fact that I didn't do any of the vocals there. I did them back home at the captain's quarters because that could take a really long time. And we wanted to, since we were doing 2 songs, we wanted to make sure that we had enough time to really nail the music, and we did. I think that, working with Flemming, it was a bit intimidating at first. He did make us feel extremely comfortable, and we did get into the zone really quick. It was nice because we were able to record together. So although we ended up overdubbing the bass and guitar parts, we were able to play with Dusty while he played the drums, which I think is very important because we are a live band and we don't use a metronome or a click track when we record. So we were able to get that feel.
We played together in the room. When we record, we want to be in the room together to catch the vibe because we don't play to a click. I know that when we had started kind of working on the song, trying to get the timing for the intro, Flemming actually had like a little pocket metronome that he would like put on the talkback mic to kind of get the tempo going. That kind of helped us in the beginning. It took a couple times to get the song down. I know that. I probably played it, I don't know. I mean, we probably went through it 10, maybe 12 times. I think it was quite a bit. It wasn't something that we just went in there and cut right away. It took a while, just like writing the song did. It wasn't going to be a song that we were just going to go in and knock out right away.
And basically, Dusty records pretty quick, and he's a total prepper, and so he knows exactly what he's going to do when he comes in.
It was really cool, and it was the first time that I got to play my new drum kit that I had built in the States, made the shells, and then assembled it, then took it all apart, put all the drums in these FedEx boxes, and put them in the oversized luggage on the airplane and just flew them to Germany. And then I ended up assembling them for the Heavy Hamburg show. Then our friend Nicholas ended up driving them to Denmark so that I could play them in the studio. So that was the first recording with those drums, and it came out really good. The toms and the kick drums are killer, and yeah, it was really cool. It was a great thing to be able to have my drums in there and record with Flemming and see how he mics things up, see how he does things, and it was really impressive.
Just getting the feel on this song was super important, because if this song is too fast or you lose the groove, and if it's too slow, you lose the intensity. So I think we just had to get in the right frame of mind to get the right drum take as a basis for us to lay everything down on top of. And that did take a little while. It did take longer than it normally does for Dusty, but it was just this song is very crucial on that, and it's just kind of the thing. Like if you're amped up or you have too much coffee or you're ready to go and you want to get through it, you want to get through it, and I think it was helpful for us to take breaks and to listen back to things and go, okay, well, hang on a second, like what's the real vibe of this song? And in the end, it came out absolutely perfect in my mind.
Well, yeah, we did our thing, like we normally do. We were all playing together in the room just to get that live feel. The amps were isolated in an ISO booth, and then we went back, back in and overdubbed, some of the stuff. I think I kept some of the rhythm tracks, but went back in and added a second guitar, worked on the solo a little bit more, played with some tones. It was cool. I definitely picked up some things from him that I use to this day, like a certain way to mic the guitar cabinets. We called it the fucking James miking technique, this way that he mic'd the cabinets kind of from the side with one extra mic, kind of picked up a little bit of the body of the cabinet instead of just being right up front on the speaker. So that was pretty cool. That was a cool thing that I got from him.
Played together, and the drums went on to the final, the final version as far as that goes. The guitar and bass were just scratch. They ended up, after we got the vibe and cut the drums, then Jarvis went in and did bass, and then Armand did his guitar and solos. It was really cool, and it was really cool to see the board that he did Master of Puppets on was out of commission, but it was in the room. And he also had the back to the front Metallica book, and it's a whole like picture book, and it's the whole history behind Master of Puppets. And to look through the pictures and see Flemming in there with the guys and the board, and then you look there, you look to your left and there's the board. It was really cool. You're just like, holy shit, we're actually recording with this guy, and there's the board. And I think that had a lot to do with the magic of cutting that track and the way that it came out.
It was really cool. We really fucking had an awesome time there. And I think out of everybody that we've worked with in the past, Flemming is definitely like top notch. I mean, I think next Night Demon album after this one, we should go and do the whole thing with him. I think that'd be fun as hell. We really connected with him. We really connected with him. I think, like I said, if there's anybody out there that was going to be the Night Demon producer, like he's the closest one that we've, gotten to work with for sure.
Flemming's his demeanor, his energy is very easy to work with. He's just a regular guy that just likes to make music with bands, and he treated us like we were, just as important as Metallica, which was really cool. He put the time in. He wasn't just in there to collect a paycheck, and, he really had cool ideas and suggestions, and he already knew the song was already put together. He was a little nervous that we were a 3-piece band and what we would sound like, but he knew quickly that when we get in there that we don't mess around and that we're all about getting the song done. So that was really cool.
Another thing that made me really happy and inspired about this recording session is that Flemming gave us some rough mixes to take with us when we left the studio. I think it sounds maybe even better than the final mix, but it's pretty close to it. And we kind of knew when we left, this is what it sounds like. It's very raw, and it was awesome. He brought out his old notebook with the, pencil sketches of his mic placements for the Master of Puppets record, and we recreated that. That in itself was just so exciting. It's kind of like, Metallica is just such a big influence on the band, and to be, we're not part of their history, but they're a big part of ours. And so in Night Demon history, to be able to collaborate with somebody like him, I think, it kind of made him feel good too, because he could tell how serious we were about this, but at the same time, we had a really good time doing it. We had a relaxed vibe, but we were definitely there and ready to play. He didn't have to coach us through anything.
As far as the mix goes, it's cool. It's not as polished as some of our other stuff, but it's definitely got a cool vibe. I think I could have tweaked the drum mix a little bit, for my liking. But man, the guitar tones and the bass tone and everything, and the drums, the toms are fucking just amazing. The way he mixed those, the way Dusty tuned up those drums. Those are his drums that he brought over from the States. They really just fucking sound just massive on that recording. Yeah, the test mixes were pretty much there. We added a few things, like, we had done the vocals here at the captain's quarters and sent it back to Flemming to mix. And then we basically just gave him some notes of like, the whole like, hey, throw a repeating delay at the end of this line or whatever, And that's pretty much it. Besides that, he had it pretty fucking worked out, There wasn't a lot of back and forth with him, which is good. And I appreciate that. I'm sure he appreciated that from us as well.
Flemming's mix, I thought was pretty cool. It was his own way of doing things. It wasn't overproduced. It wasn't triggered everywhere. There wasn't a bunch of samples on everything. I know that we ended up, kind of redoing some things when we, released Year of the Demon. It's not exactly the same because we changed things up a bit because we didn't want to just re-release these songs as they were. But I enjoyed his mix. I thought it was cool. I think he made my toms on this recording are humongous. Definitely the biggest my toms have ever sounded on anything, and just the definition of them and the power and attack was really cool. And it was cool to have him mix it, and put his kind of stamp on it. It wasn't just that he was the engineer, he mixed it as well. Overall impression at Sweet Silence, it was just such a good experience. We had a great time, such good memories. I remember, early on, Jarvis kind of talked to us and was like, hey, watch what you say, and, don't bring up Metallica, unless he does. And of course, Flemming brought up Metallica right away. We were eating bread and I was setting up the drums and he just started talking shit and, all good stuff. But just his experience with that. And it really made it comfortable for us because we didn't feel like we had to walk on eggshells. There wasn't anything that he was like, don't bring those guys up. I don't want to talk about it. It was, yeah, let's talk about it. Obviously you're here because, I worked with Metallica, and that's he understands why he's a famous guy, and because he worked with the biggest heavy metal band on the planet, one of them.
Hey guys, Nesbitt here. If you'd like to support Night Demon and this podcast, the best way to do it is to become a Night Demon subscriber. Not only will you be doing your part to support a true heavy metal band out there really living it, you'll also gain access to a ton of extras. Bonus audio content, a subscriber-only merch store with rare items from the band's archives. You can stream never-before-heard demos and unearth live concerts from the live vaults. Communicate with the other Night Demon diehards on an exclusive subscriber forum, and gain early access to all press releases, album pre-orders, new merchandise, and a ton more. And another thing that I think is pretty cool is Night Demon will be donating 10% of every subscription fee to the Metal Cares Foundation, which is a charitable fund the band started in 2014 to aid those in our metal community. So head over to nightdemon.net/subscriber and join us as we make heavy metal history together as one. And on a side note, I'll personally think you're a grade A badass. So not only was the recording of this song a new experience with production by a legendary name in metal, the song also stands out from other songs in the Night Demon catalog with its lyrical content. So traditionally, Night Demon had a kind of a dark horror vibe to their lyrics, as opposed to tackling like serious subject matter. But like Sabbath and Metallica and other bands that Night Demon were inspired by in the past, Night Demon hit a point where they began taking on some heavier concepts and themes in their lyrics.
You have to grow. And I think this is a prime example of growth. And I think that when people heard this, they were like, damn, like Night Demon took it to another level, which we always want to do that. And I think people expect that of us too, especially at this point.
As far as the lyrics go, it was, I really am proud of Jarvis with that one, with going somewhere a little bit out of the fantasy realm and going into like the more reality based kind of stuff. It's a touchy subject, I mean, he will tell you that he has some history with, suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. I mean, I think everybody has maybe thought about it at one point or another in their lives. It's just one of those parts of lives, I think. So I thought it was really cool that he went there, and hopefully it was inspiring to some people, that maybe have been contemplating that. If they heard that song and, it helped them get through it, then we did our job. And, it's a really powerful thing that you can do with music. So I hope that it came across for people in a positive light,
I think it was a very real thing for Jarvis to write about. Pretty personal. I know he's had moments, as we all have, I'm sure, where you kind of flirt with the idea whether or not you want to be here or not. And it's a very real song. I think it is very fitting for the vibe of the song. When we're writing these songs too, I don't hear those, melodies like he does or how the vocals are going to go. As we're working on parts, like he's thinking of the vocals and how he's going to sing as we're writing. So I think early on it took me a while to like kind of understand that, but now that I've written so many songs with him, I kind of know where he's at with that. So I can kind of help work with that at the same time now, where before I think I kind of would like fight it at times and be like, what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. And he's like, yeah, because you're not a singer. Well, yeah, fuck. So, I trust what he's going to come up with. And then also Armand's really good at helping him hone in on what his ideas are, and really just coming up with really cool harmonies and ways to work around the song, stuff like that. So I had no problem with the lyrics. I thought it was really, really like deep. When we were talking about fast bikes and how cheesy those lyrics are, this is a song where those lyrics aren't cheesy. And it's hits home, I think, to a lot more people than we would ever think. So that part, something that I think is really awesome about the song.
The lyrical content of this song is obviously very personal. I try not to be too personal with my lyrics, and the lyrics in Night Demon are for everyone. I don't hold anything close to my chest. I'm not one of those guys that doesn't let the rest of the band members have input, or doesn't let them in on it and just says, well, I'm writing them on my own and it is what it is. A lot of lyricists will do that, but it is a band. It's a collaborative effort. Most of the time the guys just kind of let me go on my own and trust that. But, with this, I was tackling the issue of depression and suicide, and it's just not easy stuff to talk about. But I think that these days it's been brought to the forefront a lot more, and it's a thing that people are willing to talk about.
Do you ever feel you don't belong, but nobody senses anything wrong? The pain of existence cuts like a knife. Continued persistence to end your life.
I've had my struggles with these issues for a long time, and I can't really explain why. My life is pretty great. A lot of it is by design. I don't think that I fell into any situation that makes my life great. I think there's a lot of struggles that I've gone through in order to make my life great. It's that delayed gratification. It's the no pain, no gain. It's the, do everything now so you can do nothing later kind of thing, But I think a lot of, I'm haunted by a lot of demons, no pun intended. But there's a lot of things that I've done in my life that I'm not proud of. And those things don't easily leave my mind. And then there's just another side of it that it sounds crazy, and I don't think there's a real explanation for it, but sometimes the depression, it's almost like it's there for no reason. It's sometimes, for somebody who's as passionate about life as I am, there are just moments where you're just not motivated by anything. Everything just seems gray, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. There's not like a specific incident or a specific thing that I could point to and say, oh, well, it's because of this. It's because this happened in my life, that I'm depressed, But it's just, there's moments where, especially, God, there's, this pandemic hasn't helped anything, but, I think everybody can relate to the mundaneness of life in the pandemic, but it's something that I felt even before that, where it's just like always looking for something to numb my feelings. I'm pretty open about my feelings, and I think I'm not afraid to show my emotions to the people around me, but there's just been times where I'm just like, what does it all mean? Why are we here? What is this all for? Is anybody going to care about this? Is this going to be erased? What's my legacy? What am I leaving behind? And just the stresses of life, everything just compounding on the brain, and there's just like, I'm a lot of people call me the hardest working man in metal, You know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in metal work a lot harder than me, but that's something that people have coined for me. And while I take that as a compliment, you know, all those things, there's a lot of things going on, and sometimes it's just too much, and you just want to check out. You just want to leave it all behind, and you feel responsibility or an obligation where you can't really do that, and you feel trapped. I've had those feelings so many times in my life, and I've tried to scale things back, but then I get in these modes where I don't. And I'm also somebody who keeps my word. So when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And a lot of other people are relying on me and counting on me, and that pressure just mounts and mounts and mounts. And at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, well, what's it all worth? What's the big reason behind it? It's something that I still struggle with, but it's also something that I deal with better today than I ever have. And I hope that writing a song like this can help other people navigate through these problems, or at least give them some insight or perspective, and maybe just know that they're not alone in their thinking. And the best thing to do is to just live another day, you know, live another day, go to sleep, quit what you're doing. You know, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You know, you'd be surprised. It's a lot. Life is a lot better than you think it is. And, you know, we've all made it this far, right? We've all had problems and we've all had issues, and they're going to happen again. So I try and just, when problems come up in life, I try not to stress about them too much anymore, because it just, it kills me inside. And that kind of stress is just not good for me, you know. And in the time that the singles were being released, right before the pandemic, I ended up in the hospital, not with COVID, but I was in the hospital for a week. And, you know, the stress of life just took a physical toll on my body, and it just completely shut down. It was one of the scariest things that ever happened. And I realized, I was like, I don't want to die. I don't. I want to be here for as long as I can. And especially for the people that are relying on me. I take pride in the fact that people put so much trust in me. And, you know, although it's a lot of pressure having people rely on you for things, it's a hell of a lot better than people not wanting anything to do with you, you know? And I think that there's always a chance to turn things around. You just really got to put things into perspective. And again, sometimes, look, if you got to ditch your life, just ditch your fucking life. Start again. It can happen. It could happen at any age. I started Night Demon when I was 30, and that's when I was probably the most suicidal in my life, because I thought I had no other prospects. But look how that turned out. It's something that saved my life, and it's something, sometimes you got to hit rock bottom. And when you're there, you've got two options. You can check out, or you can turn everything around. You do not have to, nobody's obligated to do anything. So if somebody out there is feeling like they're obligated to do something, they're not. They're not. And you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. What you do need to do is you need to show yourself that you care about yourself. And a lot of times we seem to care more about other people than ourselves. And there's ways that we abuse ourselves. There's ways that I've abused myself with drugs and alcohol. And I'm thinking to myself, I would never do this to somebody I care about. I would never subject them to this stuff. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of this. The lyrics, pretty self-explanatory. Verse 1, do you ever feel you don't belong, but nobody senses anything wrong?
Do you ever feel you don't belong, but nobody senses anything wrong?
The pain of existence cuts like a knife. Continued persistence to end your life.
The pain of existence cuts like a knife. Continued persistence
resistance to end your life. The end of your life.
The chorus. No warning, still craving to kill the pain.
No warning, still craving to kill the pain.
Verse 2. Silence the sickening voice in your head, whispering sinister visions of death. 6 feet above looks better below, escaping the long way home.
Silence the sickening voice in your head, whispering sinister visions of death. 6 feet above looks better below, escaping the long way home.
No warning, still craving to kill the pain.
No warning, still craving to kill the pain. Oh, you're going insane now.
The bridge section right before the last chorus. Continue the fight, reach for the light, the path you must go into the great unknown.
Continue the fight, reach for the light, the path you must go into the great unknown.
Last chorus. No warning, still craving to kill the pain. You're going insane. No warning, still craving to kill the pain. Your life is not in vain.
No warning, still craving to kill the pain. You're going insane. No warning, still craving to kill the pain. Your life's not in vain.
So the lyrics to this song, very deep subject matter for Night Demon. I'll note that in the bonus section on nightdemon.net, we have the handwritten lyric sheet that you can check out. So this single was released in May of 2020. And as we now know, it was one of many singles released by Night Demon that year. Each one of these singles was mixed by a different person. So with the compilation, Year of the Demon, being released, that compiles all of these singles, all of these tracks onto one album, the issue of mixing again popped up. So here's Jarvis.
When we were compiling all of the singles for the Year of the Demon release, we toyed with the idea of having all of the songs remixed by one person. Now, they're all different recordings, so you're dealing with a whole mixed bag here. All of the songs sound different, which they should, and they were meant to be singles. But we were thinking on the compilation, what if we remixed all the songs so they sounded a little bit more cohesive sonically? And so we kind of toyed with that idea. Also, it would make it it would make them slightly different versions from what you got on the 7 inches. So I reached out to our A&R man, the legendary Mike Gitter at Century Media Records, who knows everybody and has an amazing history in punk rock and metal.
My name is Mike Gitter. I'm the vice president of A&R for Century Media Records. What an A&R person does is find bands, sign them to a label, oversee and offer help when and where needed during the making of a record, which in the case of a band like Night Demon is usually get the heck out of the way, let the rock roll and let the metal be heavy, and then once you have this hardened bit of steel in hand, you champion it throughout the company and through the industry. I've worked for a number of record labels since 1993. I was actually a journalist before. had a hardcore zine in the 80s called Triple X Fanzine. I wrote for a number of magazines, including Rip, Kerrang, and ultimately Rolling Stone. But in 1993, I shifted gears into the record biz in what was basically the post-Nirvana. Hey, let's find people who know about things from the underground and people who know about things that have big, heavy guitars world. And I've worked for a number of labels, including Atlantic, Roadrunner, Razor and Tie, and Century Media. Some of the bands I've signed over that time include Bad Religion, Killswitch Engage, the Grammy-winning Body Count, Cradle of Filth, Opeth, Megadeth, Lorna Shore. It's a long list, so just check your All Music guide for that for more details. And it's been an amazing career, and I'm lucky to have some dealings with Night Demon. I think the first time I heard or saw Night Demon was probably around 2015, around the release of the Curse of the Damned album. And what immediately sucked me in and totally impressed me about them was, here was this band from Ventura, of guys, in their 20s who were like completely influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal, by early American heavy metal bands like, Raven or Tigers of Pantang or, Angel Witch, but played it on but amped up on steroids and playing it with like a punk ferocity. And when I saw them live, they blew me away out of sheer showmanship, out of total energy, out of like commitment to the authenticity of their influences, and some razor sharp songwriting. And I think that's what you get, when you see and you hear Night Demon, is like that explosion of earnesty, reverence, and just everything that is great about rock and roll and metal. And I think that's what's actually made them kind of important, breathing life at least into a certain aspect of, where some of those older influences had sort of stagnated.
He reached out to a lot of, it's like as if we didn't work with enough legends on these singles. He reached out to a lot of very well-known engineers and producers to do what's called a test mix. And we chose Kill the Pain as the song to do the test mix on. So he reached out to multiple people, and they gave us a test mix.
A test mix is basically a mixer showing what he can do and, his sonic interpretation of a band's recording. Different mixers approach songs differently. And, you have people who literally put their stamp on things, or you have mixers that let what's there really flourish. And part of what Night Demon wanted to do with their 7-inch series is also be reverential to, not just the songs or the visuals, but also the production of some of their influences.
And to be honest, no discredit to those guys. I just think that at the end of the day, we were happy with Flemming's mix, and we were happy with what we had, and we didn't want to go through that. I think that the one we liked the best was actually a test mix from Josh Newell, which is a guy that we've worked with a lot. He seems to understand the Night Demon sound a lot better, and we have a closer relationship with him, and I think that's what's most important. I think in the process of doing these singles, we were hoping that with one of these guys we would find like quote unquote the guy, the fourth member of the band. We've always been looking for like a real producer or an engineer, somebody that really understood us, that took us, that made us sound the way that we wanted to sound. But although we had so much fun working with all these guys, and there's no regrets, I'm glad that we did it. Nobody came out of the fold as like we didn't totally click on all levels with any of them. And, that's fine. It was a healthy experiment, and I'm happy with the end result, but we pretty much did it. And from here on out, I think we're just still going to keep doing things ourselves with Armand at the helm.
So this song, Kill the Pain, was test mixed by 5 different people as sort of an experiment. Listening to the mixes back to back, you can really see what a difference the mix does. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Here's a short clip of the 5 mixes played back to back. So a big difference there in these mixes. One thing they all have in common is huge drums. I think that's a combination of Dusty's tuning and playing and Flemming's recording and engineering. They sound awesome. You can hear all of these mixes in full in the bonus area on nightdemon.net. And that's it for this week. And in addition to those mixes, we have there's a huge gallery of pictures from recording with Flemming Rasmussen and the band in Sweet Sound Studios and Copenhagen. We've got, I mentioned, Jarvis's handwritten lyric for this song. We have Flemming Rasmussen's mix of Kill the Pain, all the demos and versions of the song that we mentioned last week. I'll also mention there are still a very limited number of 7-inch singles available in the subscriber store on nightdemon.net. I think maybe single digits of copies remaining if you want to snag one. And until next time, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Continue the fight. Reach for the light. The path you must go into the great unknown. No warning. Still craving to kill the pain. You're going insane. No warning. Still craving to kill the pain. Your life's not insane.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel
that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time. All the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.